How's it going, mi gente? Tio Lalo here with you tonight. It's a late night. We're going to be working for an hour or so. I appreciate you guys tuning in. We are doing a little bit of hand engraving. Sorry, I'm making my makeshift piece for my art. That way YouTube agrees with me tonight. We've got something special planned. Stay tuned. Just getting it ready. While I get this thing prepped, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'll try to answer them as best as possible. This is a late night session. Usually I don't engrave this late, but we are up. Adam right now. And we'll throw a little bit of music on. Sorry, I've got to make this YouTube compliant. There's a few things I have to do to make it YouTube compliant. Again, guys, this is going to be a piece of steel. That's all we're going to call it today. Only a piece of steel, nothing else, nothing more. We'll be working on this beautiful, masterful piece. Hopefully, you guys enjoy it. All right, let's see. It's going to be a fairly zoomed up view of stuff, just to keep everything compliant. Again, we're going to be using the GRS Airgraver right there, classic. If you guys have questions, please ask them now. Once I get started, I'm going to be under the microscope, so it'll be a lot harder to answer questions. Got our basic sketch in. Trying to think how we can do this. Just running into one issue. We need to move this a little bit more. Sorry, we're looking for attachments. Because we're going to readjust this. Okay, we are secure. Fantastic. We're secure there. The Viking Ollie, appreciate you tuning in. Right, if you guys tuned in last night, we were using a chaser. We were using a chaser and hammer. We're not going to be using the chaser and hammer tonight, just because I don't want to screw up at all, if I can help it. So we're getting our adapter. Again, our air graver. And down there, we've got a foot pedal that we control the pulse. Running a little bit too much power. There we go. All right. Let me get set correctly on the height so I can see under the microscope. Now, as you guys know, I like to go through and actually etch it. So if you guys are part of the members, one of my members, I posted a video recently on where I teach you how I'm able to draw on metal pretty easily before I scribe stuff in. Because once you scribe it in, that's basically a scratch, and you don't want scratches in the metal if you can help it. YM, yeah, I've actually looked at fractal vices. They are pricey though. Fractal vices are awesome. All right, so we've gone in with our forehand cut. We're going to go in with our backhand cut. What this will do is creates the V, which gives that bright flare cut. Charles Perez, hand engraving. Yeah, we're just hand engraving metal. All right, I've got to level this out. Something's not level. Yeah, we're off level pretty good right there. Let me see now. When it's off level, I can feel it. As I engrave. Give me a second, guys. I'm gonna polish the graver faces. So I do this by hand. I'm just noticing that I'm not getting as bright of a cut as I'd like. So sometimes I will go through and just lightly hit my heels. And then also the belly. All right, there we go. We now have a really sharp graver that's polished. And like I tell people, whatever's on the polished side of the graver is going to transfer over. So we should get a little bit. That belly just was not as polished. You can tell right here. I've polished it now a little bit nicer. Max and Corbett, let's see your work. I appreciate it. You should have tuned in last night. All right, let's look at this. Laura Craft, awesome, awesome. Hopefully, I got a subscription from you. All right, let's get going on the leaves. This is where it gets kind of interesting. I think you guys will like this. Again, guys, you can use this type of engraving on a lot of different metals. It looks awesome on jewelry, watches, weaponry. Clean that up a little bit. appreciate you guys tuning in. We are engraving a piece of high carbon steel on this one. The Viking Ollie, it is I think it's a mixture of carbide and tungsten. It's whatever alloy GRS uses for their C-Max gravers. Sometimes I used to use a carbide tip. On top of that, there's tungsten carbide tips. I have used those. The problem being with those that they tend to be a little bit more, they're really, really hard. So super awesome, but they chip when you put too much pressures on a lot of the sharp edges if you're not careful. So whatever GRS does with their C-Max gravers, I really like because it's a good compromise between hardness and durability. Been doing this for a little over 2 years now. And really in the last years where I picked it up with YouTube to just try to show the art of hand engraving. A lot of people, this is a dying art. I was actually part of the people that use a lot of lasers at first. So I started with a laser and then realized that I was not happy with what laser was doing with me. And it wasn't fulfilling the artist that I wanted to be. So I picked up hand engraving a little over 2 years ago. And I still have my laser. I still use it for certain things, and I use it as a tool. But that's all I use it now as. As far as slipping, it's not hard to slip on. It's not hard to slip on aluminum. Aluminum is very soft, but with that being said, it's very soft and gummy, so it actually drags. So I'm going to show you guys one of my more, I guess, older engravings when I was first starting. This is probably when I was about 2 months into engraving. So don't judge my engravings because they kind of suck. But this is on aluminum, so you can see that everything else was polished, so it should be a polished cut. But you can see how it doesn't look good. Aluminum just does not cut well, and it tends to drag and almost, it, just like I said, it's the best word is gummy. As far as the engraver goes, guys, this is the engraver right here, the Steve Lindsay Air Classic with the 120 GRS C-Max grip. I do wish I could get like a bounce back for people buying his stuff, but nope, it's just I really like his products, and I think he has some of the best products out there when it comes to engraving. All right, let's get I think I saw somebody made a comment on sharpening. Yeah, you have to sharpen them pretty often, actually. And it all just depends on the kind of metal you're engraving, how rough you're being with it. And then with sharpening, I think sharpening is probably one of the most pinnacle skills to learn as a hand engraver. If your graver is not perfectly sharp, it will give you imperfect cuts. So yeah, graver sharpening is probably the most important, I think is the most important skill to learn for beginners if they're actually engraving. Caleb Sanborn. So I used, this is all pencil down here and pen on my members. So if you're a member of my channel, I have a video posted on how I prep surfaces. It's kind of an old technique. It's not like a secret technique by any means. I just go through the steps. Basically, you're using lacquer, talc, really prepping surfaces, and then moving from there. So yeah, it's a really good method, and then it allows you really to be able to draw with pencil onto metal without really losing it on like. So let me see if I can get you to see it. So here, so I can rub it, and I'm not losing the imprint that I've drawn on by hand. And then what you see me doing by hand with the leaves is actually with a ceramic pencil. It's a ceramic scribe. So I'm kind of old compared to a lot of you young guys. But when it comes to engraving at the end, you'll notice how I'm kind of quick with it. And what I tell people, it's called the flick of the wrist. So all you guys are probably too old to, or too young to get that reference of flick of the wrist. Danny Blazer. Well, I'll be honest, they didn't have this style back then. Yesterday's live, we did a little bit of hammer and chisel. And that actually comes out pretty nice. But yeah, so if you ever go back into some of the older engravings that are done by hammer and chisel, you'll notice that there are a few more errors. They still look beautiful, don't get me wrong. They look beautiful. but they're definitely more error prone, and that was just it's fine. Like, I mean, you can't, when you have only a magnifying glass, a candle, hammer and chisel. Yeah, you can only expect so much precision. Like nowadays, this isn't electricity, this is a pneumatic hammer. But it's kind of like the accepted hand engraving way now, even by Italian engravers. But it's kind of like the same concept as, like, yeah, you know, imagine doing a tattoo back in the day with like the way that the Maoris did it, you know? Like, yeah, you could still do it that way. I mean, but is it any less nowadays than when you get a tattoo with one of the tattoo guns that are electric? I don't think so. Biking ollie, that's awesome. Glad you know what the flick of the wrist is. That also means that you're probably old. Shoot. Watercraft, awesome. That would be awesome. I will say, for you with silversmithing, you don't even need power to start engraving. All you really need is a push graver. Silver, copper, the non-ferrous metals are really soft, and you can get away with no power. You don't even need a hammer. Literally just a perfectly sharp graver, and you can make some beautiful art on silver. Guys, if you haven't subbed, please sub. Appreciate it. Check out some of the shorts. I'm working on revamping all my videos, so my actual videos should be a lot better. We're going to be posting a lot more members videos as well. So if you end up getting a membership, you'll get some members only content. I definitely don't believe in gatekeeping information, but sometimes it's hard to explain it all on lives. So I like to take some time and create some videos that are a little bit more informative for you. This is the Steve Lindsay Art Classic with the GRS C-Max graver bit and a QC holder. I had somebody request a video that I should make an episode on, kind of like the entire setup. So that's one of the episodes I'm working on. Hopefully it'll be out in the next month or so. And that one's just going to be a public domain one, so you don't even need to worry about having a membership or nothing. I will show the setup to everyone. So the reason we use a ceramic scribe instead of like a tungsten scribe is because it tends to glide so much easier over metal. Tungsten tends to stick. It cuts in too deep. Ceramic tends to glide. Caleb Sandboard, yeah, inlays are awesome. The problem being that I don't have, I'm not rich. if YouTube paid more, I would be, I'd be buying gold up the butt and inlaying some nice gold leafs into them and stuff. But yeah, you usually, the standard is usually using 24 karat gold. And well, that can get pricey real quick in today's economy. We're going to add a double wrap on this spiral just for some cool texture. I usually don't do that, but I thought that'd be kind of cool. It allows me to thicken up this stem we're building. As far as the shop, it's just out of my shed. And I'm not even joking, it's just out of my shed. I've got a little she shed, so I just work out of my she shed. And yeah, I stopped taking commissions earlier this year because I want to focus on YouTube education, keeping the art alive, interviewing other engravers, allowing you guys to kind of see the art. And that's really what I want to focus on. Knives and pizza. No, I would say you don't need when you're sanding or, doing stuff like that. Yeah, you need a mask. Really, if you're doing this hand engraving, you either need like the visor, like the magnifying visor. I'm looking through a microscope, so there's no chance of me accidentally getting a piece of metal flaked into my eye. That's your biggest worry, is one of these getting in your eye. And I can honestly say that has happened to me one time. That was the last time I did it without any sort of safety glasses, because it was kind of scary, because these are razor sharp little pieces. And so if it flicks up into your eye, it could technically cut your eye. So that's the main worry, I think, when it comes to hand engraving. Is your eyes. If you're sanding or polishing, stuff like that, yeah, you definitely want to wear masks and respirators. Denny Blazer, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, there's money in everything, and I'm a big believer in, you can make money in almost anything. And I must have been in the wrong market. They say if you want to get rich, sell to the rich. I think that's one of the quotes I've heard. I was definitely not selling to the rich, because, man, people were nickel and diming me. And that really pushed me away from doing commissions, because I was not happy doing them. Now I do these, I auction these off, and I'm a lot happier when I auction them off. Sorry, I'm trying to find my bearings where my vise is turning. We gotta set this. Denny, have a good one. Thank you for tuning in, man. So as far as this vise goes, this is a 5-axis vise, basically. But yeah, you just need a lazy Susan will work for most things that are flat. It's when you start getting into curved areas that can get kind of tricky. But flat things, just the lazy Susan's awesome. Denny, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Eric Janot, no, the vibration doesn't. It's more of a... It doesn't really do anything to you. It's just kind of there. I don't know. I like I said, I've only been doing this for 2 years. But to give you an idea, there's master engravers that have been doing this for 3 decades. You know, and they don't really say much about that. I think they complain more if they're using hammer and chisel, because that can be kind of... Because with that one, you have to move your wrists certain ways. If you guys want to see some crazy engraving, though, head on over to Instagram and look up Jeff Park. He's out of like southern Utah, I believe. He does Rolex watches. Man, I want to go take a course from him one of these days. Hopefully when YouTube starts paying me a little bit more money. But I want to go take a course from him because, man, his Rolexes are wild. And I'm not a Rolex fan by any means. Like, I would never pay that exuberant price personally. And I say never. I can't. I just can't afford it. I can't afford it currently. So, current me cannot pay exuberant Rolex prices. But, man, I would love to have one of his Rolexes that are completed. I think it's the power of language is huge, and it's not that they're too expensive, it's just I can't afford it is the truth and reality of it. And I can't afford it right now. Hopefully I can one day. Is the goal. Person read it. I say five. It says 5 axis. I don't know if it's 5 axes. They call it a 5 axis tilting vise. Basically, it shifts side to side. It shifts basically kind of in like a weird, I guess, this direction. And then it rotates, obviously. I guess, I don't know. Whoever this company is says it's a 5 axis. I just blindly believed them. But yeah, I guess probably 4 axes would be more of a better. I've got to move this piece over. It's a little outside of my field of view, so I'm going to move it slightly over. I'll bring it into range. Yeah, guys, once we're done here in a second, I'll go ahead and show a top view of what we got done to get today together. I appreciate you guys tuning in and staying tuned in. Helps out a lot, means a lot. Some of you can't donate, and that's totally fine. Time is worth more to me, honestly, and I appreciate you guys tuning in, sticking around, hanging out with me while I try to finish this. What's kind of crazy is the metal towards the end right here it must have been cooled differently, maybe a lot quicker, I'm not sure. Probably quicker because it's at the end. So it's definitely harder. It's a lot harder metal here towards the end of the piece. This is where I tend to have most of my issues. And I'm guessing it's because as it's heat treated, this cools quickly since it's at the end. And it makes it a lot harder to engrave. I like to try to take up all this negative space. We're just about finished with this portion, guys. Once I'm done here, I will call it a night. Awesome. I think we are complete with this side right here, or at least this portion. So I'll go ahead and detach it and kind of show you guys what we've got here. Mr. Nightmare Fuel might have to try that. All right, guys. James, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. Thank you. Scrappy Doo, thank you. Caleb, thank you. Again, guys, I appreciate you guys tuning in. We're going to keep working on this project throughout. Again, I can't show the full thing. Keep within YouTube policy. So this is just a piece of metal for policy's sake. But I hope you guys can understand. Yeah, I mean, this is the art form that I love. And I appreciate you guys joining me tonight. Thank you again. Until next time, Tio Lalo is out. Continue to create some beautiful art. Love you all. Peace.